911 dispatch. It's a job I've been doing for nearly a quarter of a century now. And during that long time, taking calls and dispatching first responders, as you can imagine, some of the incidents that are called into us become sort of normal, routine. Any dispatcher out there can tell you that sometimes they get bored of taking burglar alarm calls or minor vehicle crashes. Especially if you're in a big city, you'll be taking calls like this multiple times every single day. It gets to be a lot. I mean, why can't people drive? Am I right? But those are very frequent and normal things to happen at dispatch. The situation is normal. I'm sure most of you have heard the acronym SNAFU. If you have, you know exactly what it stands for. If you don't know what it means, I'll just let you hit up the Googles on the World Wide Webs to find out what it's about. You'll quickly understand. So we have normal situations and SNAFUs. Both become somewhat normal, as implied in the words. But just because something starts out as normal doesn't mean they won't end up being firmly in the SNAFU region. I've got some incidents in today's episode that fit directly in with this. Welcome back to Music City 911. The first incident I don't have a 911 call for it. And truth be told, I'm not exactly sure how it arrived at dispatch. It could have been a call that was called in on the non-emergency line and it wasn't released with the rest of the incident info. But I do have the radio dispatch audio. And yes, I'll explain what was said after it's played. Dispatch audio from a police or fire radio can be somewhat hard to handle, especially if it's aired on a busy radio where you have to talk fast.
Any unit BFMV suspect are now Gage and Broadway. Suspect vehicle is an orange Yukon license. Suspect is a male, black 30s, black hoodie, light blue pants. Vehicle is stalled in the intersection, and the suspect is now at the gas station. The PR followed the suspect to the location. It's code 2 incident 673 and RD 1383.
This was aired to the Los Angeles Police Department's Newton Division at 6:10 in the morning on April 24th of this year. They were being notified of a citizen that was tracking some stolen items via GPS. That person had their car broken into earlier on. They had went to the location that the items were being tracked to and figured out who the suspect was and what sort of vehicle they were in. People call pretty frequently with the location of some sort of stolen item. It's usually a phone or a tablet that has GPS enabled and some sort of Find My Phone or other app on it like that. Several ways to do this. And the thefts from vehicles, car break-ins, they're one of the most frequent calls we get. A lot of items get stolen this way. The suspect description given to police, he was described as a male black in his 30s, wearing a black hoodie and light blue pants. He was in an older gold or orange Chevy Suburban. The Suburban had stopped, partially blocking lanes at the corner of Central Avenue and 48th Street there in Los Angeles. The caller said the suspect had got out of the vehicle and went to a gas station, but when I looked on Google Maps, I didn't see anywhere that had gasoline close by that corner. Police responded pretty quickly. As I said, it was a little after 6 a.m. on April 24th, and that was a Wednesday morning. Generally, even in a big city, 6 a.m. on a Wednesday, there's not a ton going on for police or dispatch. But as I said earlier, that normal situation can turn to a SNAFU very quickly. When the first unit gets there, all the normal stuff just flies out of the window and things escalate step by step until it's complete chaos. I have some in-car camera audio from the first unit there on the scene. You'll be able to tell some of what happens from the audio, but it is way worse than what you hear.
You want me to run it, sir?
No, what's the license plate?
It's a Tim.
Tell We're gonna be code 6 on vehicle central 31st. Get a backup airship supervisor.
Code 6 on the vehicle 48 and central. Backup airship supervisor. Sir, hey! Sir! Turn off the vehicle!
Getting into the vicinity, 13X21 is code 6 on a starting with a motor vehicle, so 4 units and 6 driver goes in the backup area and a supervisor.
Personnel 50.
13 on 50, roger.
13X21 shows in pursuit from Central and 48th, requesting backup airship and supervisor.
Tell them where we're going, direction.
On frequency, stand by. 13X21 is in pursuit of a burglary from motor vehicle suspect. Central on 48, requesting a backup air unit and supervisor.
Have a unit meet with the victim to verify we have a
13
crime.
on 50, around monitoring.
Clear me, partner.
Yes, sir. Have a unit meet with the victim to verify we have a crime. Suspect is heading northbound Hooper from 52nd.
Vehicle now, Hooper from 50.
With crest 4
52nd,
units
requesting
because
a unit meet with the victim to make
like
sure we have a
other
crime.
occupants in the vehicle.
Requesting 4 units for other occupants in the vehicles.
There are 4 occupants in the vehicle. Last location northbound Hooper from 54 occupants.
Show us code 6 at Hooper and 46.
Tell him
TC'd.
TC'd.
Requesting an RA
Yeah, get an RA.
for a victim at 46 and Hooper.
Watch out for electrical wires.
Vehicle TC'd at 42nd in Hooper, 46 in Hooper, requesting an RA.
Electrical wires.
Sure, subject to the backup.
All units block northwest, south, and east, 46 in Hooper. North, south, east, and west, 46 in Hooper.
We got suspect. Hooper. Northbound Hooper. Male black. Blue sweater. Officers making contact.
From the sound of it, the one calling the pursuit on the radio, and when I say calling the pursuit, that's the person who was the one tasked with talking on the radio and giving the location, as well as other pertinent updates. That officer, I believe, was a rookie. You could hear him being given instructions from his partner in the car. Some of it was relayed well, some not exactly what was being said to him. If you're not an experienced officer in something like this, a vehicle pursuit, hectic doesn't begin to describe how it is. You're not only driving the car, you have to be aware of all of your surroundings. The cars that are on the road in front of you, those that might be at intersections waiting to cross, any pedestrians that may be there, all while trying to keep up with the suspect who is running from you. Also, while looking at street signs to give your location and the direction you're going. It's a lot. When officers got to the initial location where the suspect was before he started running away, they began giving the driver orders to shut off the vehicle. When I was watching this, I was pretty sure he wouldn't comply with that. It almost seems like criminals don't like to be caught. The pursuit begins, and this very large SUV the suspect is driving starts going at an extreme high rate of speed up side roads that has parked cars lining both sides of the road. The area is a mix of small businesses and houses. The suspect makes a couple of turns and then turns onto Hooper Street and continues his extreme speeds when he starts going into oncoming traffic. Officers racing to catch up to him finally do so, and when they get there, it's a horrible crash. That's the TC code they were using on the radio. Traffic collision. They also asked to start an RA, which is a rescue ambulance. What they rolled up on was a suspect's vehicle overturned on its roof and 8 other cars that were damaged to varying degrees, as well as a utility pole that had been hit and it had wires down. The utility pole was laying over the fence in someone's front yard. A small tree was also completely knocked over. Even with this bad of a collision, the suspect crawled out of his vehicle and took off running. Officers took chase on foot.
Hey, Heads up. X21, we got stuff. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Anything. Go on your stomach. Roll on your stomach. Roll on your stomach.
Oh, I didn't do anything.
Do not resist.
I didn't do anything.
Do not resist. You will get tased.
I'm not.
Do not
I didn't
resist.
do anything.
Do not resist. You will get tased.
I didn't do anything.
The suspect only managed to make it about a half a block up before officers caught up to him. Officers were able to take him into custody without further incident at that point. He didn't fight with the police once they caught him. As you heard in that audio, almost the second they get him on the ground, he starts immediately yelling, "I didn't do anything." He says this over and over while police were putting handcuffs on him. Well, the stolen items from the original victim, they were found in the vehicle that he was driving, along with a lot of other stolen goods, including electronics and IDs of people. These were all likely from other vehicle break-ins. So he did that, and he ran from the police and caused a multiple car collision. He definitely did do something, a lot of somethings. And I wish this was where the craziness stops, but there's more, a lot more. Something happened to make the suspect lose control while he was driving. I don't believe officers even noticed this while they were pursuing him. He was over a block in front of them at this point. A security camera that was pointing outside while the suspect was driving down the wrong side of the road, this camera, being about a block from the other collision that happened, captured something that, when I was watching it, made me sit straight up in my seat. A bicyclist was trying to cross the street, and the suspect hit him. I'm not sure of his speed, but on a small street like that, and from the video, I would think he's going well in excess of 60 miles an hour, possibly closer to 80. And this is on a 30 mile per hour speed limit zone. The impact sent the cyclist flying through the air. He went at least 150 feet before he landed on the windshield and the roof of a parked car. His impact was so great, it completely caved in the top of the car. He then bounced off of it and landed several feet further behind the car. Once EMS got to the scene, they determined the bicyclist was dead. They believed he was killed instantly. The cyclist, 46-year-old Jose David Monsalve Rojas, had immigrated to America from Colombia just 6 months before this. He was riding his bike to work as he did every morning. Jose was a father of 5. Even with all this, that's still not everything that happened. After the suspect, 30-year-old Jermaine Smith, was taken to a police station for questioning, he began complaining of back pain. An ambulance was requested, and he was taken to a hospital and treatment began. Police managed to get him charged, still with him being in the hospital, and his charges were vast. The charges were murder, felony evading an officer causing death, vehicular manslaughter, and felony hit and run. He had bail set at $150,000 and total warrants in the amount of $327,000. After he was treated and was in the process of being released, police were there to take him back into custody and transport him to jail when he started feeling bad again. He was readmitted to the hospital, where just 5 days later, he too died. The investigation into all of this is still ongoing. Authorities will be looking at the pursuit itself, the traffic investigation for the crash, as well as the death of someone in police custody. The cause of death for the suspect is still unknown. After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I heard that for a limited time, all Mint Mobile wireless plans are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online. They don't have retail stores or salespeople. Instead, they deliver premium phone plans directly to you. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan's jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's limited time deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/MC911. That's mintmobile.com/MC911. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MC911. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Penny Pratt, hiding in nearby bushes, made the following call to 000.
Emergency services.
Job number 764942.
Thank you. Hello, where do you need police?
Number 2, Alma Avenue, Baronia.
Is that ALMA?
Yep.
Just bear with me a moment, please.
There's 2 people that you want to
Okay,
arrest.
just bear with me a moment. I'm trying to find the location. Could that be 2 Alma Avenue in Infantry Gully, Victoria? Just near Alvina Street and Austin Street?
Yep, they're supposed to...
What's the problem?
They're supposed to give me money I was owed, and I was...
Okay, hang on, slow down. What do you need police for?
They just picked me up from there in the hospital.
Who's they?
Me around.
Who are you talking about?
I'm within the vicinity of being heard. Do you understand what that means?
Okay, well, if I can't hear you... If I can't hear you, how am I meant to help you?
Trust me, you want to get to this address.
Okay, and you need to tell me what we're going to the address for.
They wanted people.
Who are the people?
James Potter or Mendez or whatever his name is.
Sorry, what's his name? James what?
Potter or Mendez. I don't know, but you're going to get me bashed. He may not...
Okay, well, you need to tell me what you want me to send police there for, please.
Because he's wanted.
For what?
Dangerous. There's warrants out for his arrest. Are you for real?
For what?
Are you
I'm not
real?
a police member.
I don't know.
Stop yelling at me. Then how do you know that there's warrants?
Oh, my God.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to do my job.
Please.
Okay, if you want to speak to them, you'll have to call them directly. Do you want me to send police or not?
Yes.
Okay, then you need to answer my question.
I'm hiding in a bush answering your question.
Why are you hiding in a bush?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Why are you hiding in a bush?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, what?
Police on 3 violent offenders.
What are you hiding in a bush for?
Because I'm ringing the police on 3 violent offenders.
How do you know these 3 violent people?
Through a friend of mine that's not really a friend, a K-triple-O lady.
What is your name, please?
Penny Pratt. What is your name, please?
I'm call taker number 2. What is your contact telephone number, please?
Call what?
Call taker number 2.
Call taker number 2.
What is your phone number, please?
0411 142.
So why are these 3 people violent? What have they done?
Oh, my God.
Can you stop saying, oh, my God, Penny?
Business.
Okay, well, it is my business if you want me to send police. So you can either answer questions or you don't. Penny, then...
The call, placed to a 000 operator, the Australian version of 911, was not at all easy to listen to. I'm sure you were angered listening to it. I was too. But the details of the call, I'll get into that in just a few. The caller, 27-year-old Penelope Louise Pratt, known to everyone as Penny, had a very troubled childhood. At an early age, she was diagnosed with dyslexia as well as another learning disability. This slowed her schooling down significantly. When she got to her teens, she began experiencing other mental health issues and was seen regularly by psychiatrists. It's not really known when each started, but around the same time she began having mental health issues, she got into drugs. First with marijuana, then moving up to much harder drugs like heroin. This made her mental health even worse. Just after secondary school, she had a daughter. 3 years after that, she had another child, a boy. By the time of the phone call, because of her drugs, a series of arrests for drugs, and other charges, along with her various mental health issues, she had lost custody of both of her children. To complicate things even further with Penny, just the year prior to the phone call, she lost her father. He passed away and left her right around $100,000. But because of all of her struggles, she spent all of it in a very short time, likely on drugs. When her life could have been turned around due to an influx of money, she went deeper into her hole. During the middle of her spending, her partner she had been with for a bit died of a drug overdose. This, combined with the death of her father, it was too much to handle. She dove deeper into drugs, and her mental health suffered even more. On November 28, 2010, Penny hit rock bottom. She told her neighbor she was checking herself into Maroondah Hospital, about 30 minutes east of Melbourne, to help deal with anxiety and other issues. The hospital was about 15 minutes away from Penny's place in Boronia, another suburb of Melbourne. That's the same day the 000 call was placed. A lot of things happened that day and later that night as well. A few days later, Penny hadn't been heard from, and her mother called police to report her missing. That's when the investigation into what happened got going. That may sound odd given that her 000 call was placed days before. That's because police were never sent to her. The 000 call, you could tell it was difficult to listen to, not only because Penny wasn't giving good info, but because the dispatcher was also being extremely troublesome. Penny had called 000 10 minutes prior to this call. She said that someone owed her money and she wanted police to help her get it. She also mentioned someone was drink driving, a DUI to us, and also she was afraid she was going to cop a beating. She said she wanted to go back to the hospital she was just in. When she was questioned, she got angry with the dispatcher and started using harsh language before she hung up. Dispatch never was able to obtain her location. The call we heard, it started out fine with the address being given. Once the dispatcher started asking what was going on, Penny initially got quiet, saying she was hiding in a bush to avoid some violent offenders, then began getting louder with the dispatcher. Instead of trying to get Penny to calm down to get the info, the dispatcher matched Penny's outrage and was forceful with her. There are times where you can absolutely be forceful on an emergency call with someone, but not until other means of trying to acquire the info has been used. And being forceful is a nice way of saying what this dispatcher did. She was confrontational and argumentative. A call like Penny was making, trying to report someone possibly with warrants, that's one of those sort of normal and frequent calls we get. It's not something that happens daily, but we get them enough that it's normally a pretty straightforward thing. You found out the location of the person with warrants, their name, a description of them, including a rough age so we can filter through any potential name matches with someone else, try to find out what the warrant could be for, and a very important bit, if the person with the warrant is at the same location that the caller is at. That's a big thing, especially with someone potentially violent like Penny was saying. If someone is calling saying they know where someone with a warrant is and the caller is safe and at a different location, we might have the caller phone our warrants division so those officers can respond, freeing up the resources of the patrol officers for other calls. But that's also depending on what the warrant is for. If the caller is at the same location, the caller could be in danger and the nearest available officers should be sent. That's where the problem with the call we listened to started out. Once Penny started calling the dispatcher 000 lady and then started calling her a bitch, which was bleeped out, the dispatcher hung up and didn't send police. Backtracking a bit before this call came in, just after her partner had died from a drug overdose, she started hanging out with a bad group of people. She was already known to be around those who weren't the most desirable in the first place with her drug use, but these were even worse. These were guys who were hardcore meth users. On the day she went to the hospital, these guys came looking for her, trying to settle a previous drug debt. Or at least that's what they claimed. When she wasn't home, they went to the neighbor's place and asked if they had seen her. The neighbor told them that she had checked herself into a hospital and let them know the name of the hospital. They asked the neighbor to call her, and he did. One of the druggies got on the phone with her and told Penny they had some money for her and wanted to come pick her up so they could give it to her. She agreed, and they headed to the hospital. When they arrived, it was past visiting hours, and the receptionist told them they had to leave. An argument broke out, and security was called. One of the men said that he was Penny's brother and called her phone again. Even though he was either drunk or on some sort of drugs, he was convincing enough to the security guard that he was Penny's brother. While on the phone, he convinced her to check out of the hospital and come with him. After hiding in the bush during the call we heard, she was confronted by one of the men, Aaron Gibson, and started arguing with him, asking for money that they'd promised her. The fight got very loud, and another one of the men there, Adrian Krellicamp, told them to take it inside. Inside the apartment was another man, James Potter. The argument continued to escalate when Gibson grabbed a sawed-off .22 caliber rifle and pointed it at her face. He pulled the trigger, and the bullet hit her jaw. Penny started begging Gibson not to kill her, but he drug her to a chair and then put the gun to her left side of her head, and then pulled the trigger again. Potter and Gibson then drug her to a bathtub where she was shot a third time in her right eye. According to the police and coroner's report, this wasn't enough. Gibson told Potter to finish the job. He went and got a large kitchen knife and began stabbing her in the chest multiple times, hitting her heart. He then cut her throat. They still weren't finished with her. Gibson took out an angle grinder from his backpack and began cutting at Penny's head and neck. That decapitated her. The pair then wrapped her in a living room rug and then put her in the trunk of Krellicamp's car. The trio then went and dumped her body in some bushes in the Dandenong Ranges National Park. None of this was known by police until they started investigating her disappearance and began questioning people around there. It was pretty quick that they found out that the trio had been seen with her, at least two of them picking her up from the hospital the night of her murder. They initially questioned one, who denied being at the hospital, and then the other, who said they were both there, but denied knowing where Penny was. Those were Gibson and Potter. The third man, Adrian Krellicamp, was later pulled over on the 17th of December by an unmarked police car, and his vehicle was searched. Inside the trunk of the car, they found evidence of a crime. Remnants of some old clothing were in the trunk, and there was some sort of dried substance on them. That was taken and tested, and it was confirmed to be dried blood. It was found out that Krellicamp had went and tried to clean out his trunk with those clothes. On December 19th, Krellicamp was interviewed by police and admitted to knowing where Penny was. He took detectives to where Penny's body was laid. Krellicamp denied having anything to do with the murder of Penny, but did admit that he assisted with the disposal of her body. Krellicamp was assisting detectives with the investigation, and the other two were arrested, both charged with murder. Aaron Gibson pled guilty and was sentenced to 22 years in prison and wouldn't be available for parole for a mandatory 19 years. James Potter was sentenced to 24 years in prison with a minimum sentence of 20 years before possible parole. Adrian Krellicamp was charged with accessory after the fact, as well as possession of methamphetamines, but was released due to his cooperation with police. This was all over a drug debt of $160. That's all for this episode. Be sure to head over to the Music City 911 podcast discussion group on Facebook. This episode is one that I have a feeling a lot of people will want to talk about, and I do have a small amount of further information about it. You can find the group pretty easily. Just use the search function there on Facebook. If you're not a member over at Patreon, now would be a good time to join. I've recently put out 2 new bits of bonus content there, one of which was a story I have some personal connection with. If you'd like ad-free episodes along with that bonus content and more, head over to patreon.com/MusicCity911. If you'd like to help support the show another way, the best way to do so is to tell other people about it. You can do that simply by telling them what the show's about, then helping them find the show on Apple or Spotify or whatever other podcast app they may have, or by sharing it on social media. Any help that way is greatly appreciated. Until next time, for Music City 911, I'm Brandon, and y'all have a good one.